Let me ask you something. Do you think a road can hold a memory? I don't just mean the memory of tar and hot gravel being laid down by sweating road crews, but a deeper memory? A story of its own, a narrative that's been imprinted on the very asphalt, waiting in the deep, quiet dark for the next set of headlights to pass through and illuminate a chapter? Tonight, we're going to explore that very idea. We're going to talk about a place where the past isn't just remembered. It's relived, night after lonely night. This is a work of fiction, a ghost story born from the hum of the tires on the lonely highway. But it's inspired by the feeling of very real, very empty stretches of road where the world feels thin, and the membrane between what we know and what we fear feels like it could tear at any moment. So, here's the story they tell at 3 a.m. over burnt, bitter coffee and truck stops from coast to coast. It's a tale that belongs to the third shift drivers, the ones who live their lives under the moon and stars. On a quiet, desolate stretch of highway deep in the New Mexico high desert, there's a mile marker that drivers talk about in hushed, serious tones. It's not the busy, brightly lit interstate. It's an old two-lane blacktop that the new roads left behind decades ago. A forgotten vein of asphalt where the skeletal arms of scrub brush scratch at the shoulder, and the sky is so profoundly black, it feels like it could swallow your headlights whole. Mile marker 187. The legend, in its simplest form, is that the spot is haunted. But the details shift like desert sand depending on who's telling the tale and how much whiskey they've had. Some say it's a young girl who ran away from a bad home and simply vanished on that road 70 years ago, swallowed by the desert. Others claim she was part of a pioneer family whose car broke down. She went walking for help towards lights she thought she saw in the distance and was never seen again. A few of the darker versions of the tale whisper that she wasn't lost at all, but was a victim of some terrible violence, and her spirit is now forever tied to that specific mile of road. But a few chilling concrete details always stay the same in every telling. As you approach the marker, your radio, no matter the station, will bleed into pure hissing static. The temperature in your cab will drop like a stone, a damp cold that clings to your clothes. And you'll get that primal, unmistakable feeling in your bones that you are not alone. They say you might see her. A flickering, indistinct figure in a pale dress standing in the shoulder, her form shimmering in the heat rising from the road, her eyes just begging for you to stop. But stopping is the one thing the old-timers say you should never, ever do. Before I tell you what happened to me out there, you need to understand the rules. These aren't written in any company handbook or safety manual. They're a survival guide for the spooky, unsettling parts of the job, a creed passed down from one generation of long-haul drivers to the next. Never, ever stop at mile marker 187. I can't stress this enough. Not for a flat tire, not to answer the call of nature, not for a nap, not for anything. They say one fella did, a veteran driver named Red who'd been driving since before the interstates were even finished. He was a tough, no-nonsense guy who thought the stories were hogwash. He pulled over, tired and ahead of schedule. They found his rig the next morning, engine cold, his still warm, half-full coffee cup sitting on the dash. The logbook was open to the correct page, but the driver's side door was hanging wide open to the silent desert. Red was just gone. No footprints, No sign of a struggle. Just an empty cab and a story that turned from a campfire tale into a cautionary one. If you see something strange, you floor it. Don't slow down to get a better look. Don't stare. Your curiosity is not your friend out there. And whatever you do, don't you dare look back in the mirror. One guy, a young driver out of Texas, swore he risked a glance in his side view. He wanted to see if it was really a girl. He said what he saw wasn't a girl anymore. It was just a tall, dark, slender shape, impossibly fast, keeping pace with his rig just outside the passenger door. Its form indistinct and wavering like a heat mirage at midnight. He said it didn't have a face, just a sense of profound emptiness where a face should be, an abyss that promised to swallow him whole. He never drove that route again. Trust your gut over your eyes. After 10, 12, 14 hours of staring at an endless ribbon of white lines, your eyes can and will play tricks on you. You'll see phantom animals, shimmering lights, things that aren't there. But that feeling, that cold dread that starts in the pit of your stomach, the hair standing up on your arms and the back of your neck, that's the road's own ancient warning system. They say it's the collective fear of every driver who's passed this way before you. A silent alarm echoing through time, telling you to get moving. Listen to it. It knows things you don't. They're not just spooky stories to pass the time. They're warnings, carved into the very culture of the road by fear and experience. My run-in with whatever haunts that stretch of road happened on a cold, moonless night in late October. The kind of night where the darkness feels heavy, like a blanket. I was cutting through New Mexico on that old highway, a shortcut I'd taken a dozen times before, trying to shave a few precious hours off my run to Phoenix. I was dead tired, on hour 10 of a 14-hour haul, and the white lines on the road were starting to blur and dance, morphing into one long, hypnotic snake. All I wanted was to make it to the next truck stop, feel the solid ground under my feet, and crawl into my bunk. As I saw the sign for mile marker 187 coming up, a faded green rectangle glowing in my high beams. All those stories I'd brushed off as trucker folklore came flooding back into my head. Just a bunch of tall tales for rookies, I muttered to myself, my own voice sounding small in the quiet cab. I gripped the wheel a little tighter, trying to shake it off. I'd been on these roads for 10 years. I was a professional, not some kid scared of the dark. But as my rig rolled past the marker itself, the air in the cab changed. It wasn't a draft. A damp, cellar-like chill seeped into the space. A deep, penetrating cold that had no business being in a heated cabin. It felt like someone had opened a freezer door right next to me. My knuckles went white on the steering wheel. Then my radio, which had been playing some forgotten country song, sputtered, hissed, and went to dead, roaring static. A moment later, my headlights gave a little stutter, dipping to near darkness for a full second before flaring back to life. Brighter than before. My heart started to beat a little faster, a frantic drum against my ribs. And out of the corner of my right eye, I could have sworn I saw a flash of white in my peripheral vision, just as I passed the marker post, a flicker of movement on the shoulder of the road. Just a trick of the light and a tired mind, I told myself, my voice strained. but my hands were already gripping the wheel like my life depended on it, and a cold sweat was starting to form on my brow. That's when things went from unnerving to utterly terrifying. Through the thick, churning static at the radio, I thought I heard a voice. It was faint at first, buried in the noise, but then it came through clear as a bell for just a second. A young girl's voice, fragile and laced with a desperate sadness. "It's so cold out here," it whispered, seemingly right beside my ear. "Please, don't leave me." My blood ran cold. My heart hammered against my ribs like it wanted out of my chest. I fought every instinct, every rule screaming at me, and risked a glance in the big rearview mirror on the passenger side, half dreading, half expecting to see a face reflected there. But there was nothing. Just empty, pitch-black road stretching back into the suffocating darkness. A wave of relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. And then my engine coughed. A single sickening metallic sputter that rocked the cab. The RPMs on the tachometer didn't just fall, they dropped to zero like a stone. The check engine light didn't just come on. It blazed with an angry, pulsating orange light that filled the cab with a hellish glow. Then the power steering went. Suddenly, I was wrestling a 40-ton steel coffin, the wheel fighting me with incredible force as the truck rapidly started losing power and speed. A sick feeling of absolute primal panic washed over me as I realized I was coasting to a stop. I had no choice. I had to pull over onto the shoulder. The old man's rules were screaming in my head. I had broken the first one, and now I was stuck. Right at mile marker 187. The second I killed the ignition to try and reset the computer, the silence was deafening. It wasn't just quiet. It was a physical presence, a complete and total lack of sound that pressed in on my eardrums. The darkness outside felt absolute, like black velvet pressed against the glass. Then I heard it. A faint, sorrowful whisper just outside my driver's side window. Then another from the passenger side. Within seconds, it sounded like a whole crowd of people, dozens of voices all whispering at once, a chorus of the lost. They weren't angry or menacing, just sad. So profoundly, eternally sad and lost. I grabbed for my phone, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. No signal, of course. Not a single bar. I was completely, utterly alone, stranded in the heart of the legend. Sitting there in that suffocating dark, trapped in my own cab with the sound of sorrowful ghosts just outside, I remembered the second rule. If you see something strange, you floor it. I hadn't seen her, not really, but I'd heard her. I'd heard them. Panic is a cold fire, and it was starting to burn right through me, turning my blood to ice water. I took a shaky breath, closed my eyes for a second, and turned the key in the ignition, praying to a God I hadn't spoken to in years. Nothing. Just a dead, metallic click. The battery was fine. This was something else. The whispers outside seemed to get a little closer, a little more distinct, as if sensing my despair. I tried again, turning the key with more force this time. The engine gave a low, painful groan, a struggling sound like a dying animal, and then died again. My heart sank into my stomach. This was it. This is how it happens. I was going to be the next story, the next rig found empty on the shoulder, another cautionary tale for rookie drivers. I put my head against the cold plastic of the steering wheel, and for some reason, I found myself whispering to the truck itself. "Come on, baby. Just one more time for me. Just one more." I turned the key a third and final time, expecting nothing. The engine exploded to life with a deafening roar that shook the entire cab, the headlights blasting the darkness away and revealing nothing but empty road. I didn't wait. I didn't think. I didn't dare look back. I slammed the truck into gear, the tires spitting gravel, and got the hell out of there, leaving a cloud of dust and diesel smoke where those whispers had been just seconds before. I didn't look in a single mirror, not the rear view, not the side views, for what must have been 20 miles. The farther I got from mile marker 187, the clearer the radio became. The roaring static slowly fading until a cheerful, upbeat pop song was blaring through the speakers. A sound so aggressively normal it was jarring. The experience changed me. I don't dismiss the stories so easily anymore. In fact, sometimes, when the coffee is strong and the hour is late, I'm the one telling them. Looking back on that night, I can't help but think about that spot on the map. Mile marker 187 may not be on any official list of haunted places, but it represents all the unknown, lonely stretches of road out there in the world. It's that dark patch of I-80 in Wyoming where the wind sounds like voices. It's that foggy stretch of Highway 1 in California after midnight when the ocean mist rolls in. It's any place where you're alone, where the world outside your windshield feels ancient and wild, and the fragile barrier between here and somewhere else feels paper thin. It's a stark reminder of the mysteries that hide in the shadows, just past the finite reach of your headlights, waiting patiently for the curious or the unlucky. So next time you're driving alone late at night and you get that funny feeling in your gut, remember the rules. Trust your gut. Keep your foot on the gas, and whatever you do, don't stop. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay safe out there.